challenge that over the course of the summer, and with that treatment, some really cool things, perspectives kind of came out of that, and we want to share those with you tonight. I want to share those with you guys because I think they're common experiences, not just something that's unique to maybe what I went through, right?
That's a taste of The Guyz Are Back. This week's episode of The WizeGuys, a podcast that unleashes the unthinkable in culture, religion, business, and everyday life. This week, the guys return to the mic after a break that involved challenges and victories. Listen while they share some insightful wisdom that came from these experiences that we are sure you will be able to relate to. So, it's time to step over the line, strap in, and see if you are willing to let Mac, the Rev, and Coach Stu take you to a place of thinking differently.
All right, welcome to the WizeGuys, a podcast where we unleash the unthinkable and step over the line to help us see things differently, go to the inside edge, and stimulate new thinking and new realities that plant a promise, an alternative, and an energized hope. We might even answer some questions you haven't even thought to ask. So hi, I'm Mac, your host. And man, we are back after being gone for a while. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, but it is so great to be in here with my buds, man. Hey, Rev.
Hey, it's good to see you back in the saddle again.
I'm loving it. I'm loving having you guys here with me. Stu, Coach Stu.
Hey, Mac, I'm so glad you're back.
Oh.
And Rev, it is so good to see you.
Great to see you guys. I missed you.
I've been missing you guys.
This is just so, it's just so good. And we're gonna talk about it, gang, about why we had to take a little bit of a break and why we're so excited about being back together. So listen for that tonight. That's what we're up to. But, if you're here for the first time, we want to welcome you without a doubt. We'd love to hear from you. If anything we're starting to talk about, is floating your boat, or you have some comments on, please go to the website and comment on Facebook, whatever it might be. We're going to start up our cafe conversation on the website here shortly. So, interact with us. We can't wait. We can't wait for that whole thing. And so what are we going to do tonight? We're going to talk about our journeys this summer, and mainly me, because it was the reason that we took the break is because of some stuff that was happening with me. And we're going to try to keep that as short as we can, because there's a whole big, long story, as you can imagine. It might be. But really, in a nutshell, this is what happened. I lost my voice because I had to do some radiation treatment for cancer in my vocal cords, all right? So I kept on. We did the episodes as long as we could. The guys even did one without me.
We were both very scared, and we never want to do that again.
Wow. Yeah.
We need you, man.
For real. We were lost.
So getting me back in the saddle, and a lot of the challenge that over the course of the summer, and with that treatment, some really cool things, perspectives kind of came out of that. And we want to share those with you tonight. I want to share those with you guys because I think they're common experiences, not just something that's unique to maybe what I went through, right?
You know what I loved, Mac, is that you went through this. The things you talk about on this podcast, you lived them, and you demonstrated them, and you pulled from a well that was very deep in your heart, and we got to see you going through it with the truth and with grace and with a great deal of compassion. And so I just want to honor you. As this story is about to come out, I honor you for demonstrating what you talked about.
Here.
That does my heart good.
You lived many, many, many of our memes.
I kind of did, didn't I, right? So with that, gosh, guys, I appreciate that. I really do, because, I think this podcast is all about helping us try to do it better, right?
Yep,
Isn't
right.
That what we're all about? So hopefully I did that better than I would have without doing the work. But basically, it was like this. I had to have 28 days worth of radiation treatment on my vocal cords. I had already had a surgery on it, and it didn't work. And so in the midst of that, of course, in your vocal cords, what's right behind your vocal cords is your throat, where you're eating and everything's going down in your stomach, right? Well, it was about halfway through the treatments, and all of a sudden I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything, nothing. I mean, there was nothing going down there. That was it. And unfortunately, I can say this, we didn't prepare ahead of time enough to have a feeding tube put in, and so I had to do that late in the game, and it was a nightmare. I mean, all I can tell you is it was an absolute nightmare. I got dehydrated. I had to go to the emergency room. I lost my voice. It was really crazy. So I had to go in the hospital initially to get that feeding tube put in. All right. And again, I'm not eating anything. I'm not drinking anything. Everything's intravenous. In the midst of all of that, I developed an abscess, in my digestive tract. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden the focus shifted from my throat down into my gut, if you will. And that pain and that agony, it was unbelievable. They actually sent me home before they even knew that I had the abscess, and I couldn't stand it. I was just in such pain that I had to literally go back in the hospital to get the drainage tube put in. So now I got a drainage tube sticking out of me, and I got the feeding tube sticking out of me, and in order to do the drugs that I needed, the antibiotics, they had to put a PIC tube in, if anybody knows what that is. And I had to come home, and I was interjecting myself every single day with all the antibiotics, at the same time dealing with losing 25 pounds. It was wild. And my wife all along, as she was coming to the hospital, was being there with me, but I was delirious. I mean, literally delirious. I was speaking things that were just
more than normal.
I have to jump in here and share that your wife was so kind in keeping me up to date, and all of those delirious moments I got in text, which was amazing because apparently you and I had a lot of conversations that I wasn't physically there for.
Well, there it is, gang. Okay, I mean, it was the most surreal experience. And it was hard. I mean, it was. It really was. It was really hard. I was in the hospital on and off for almost 3 weeks. And in that whole experience, so now I've laid the groundwork for you. And I'm sure many of you have had similar experiences or even certainly worse. I'm not trying to say it wasn't. It wasn't the worst thing that could have happened to me. And luckily, the words were never used life-threatening. Or although if they hadn't noticed that abscess and it had burst and all of that, it could have been, all right? So anyway, I've had this whole experience that these guys are living with me along the way, and they're encouraging me. And believe me, if you don't have your tribe of 5, we've talked about that.
Oh yeah, they're so important.
Oh my gosh, people that are encouraging you, whether you want to say they were praying for you or they were just sending out energy or whatever it might be.
Just being there.
You need them. Mm-hmm. You need them. Okay.
People need to know they're not alone.
Yeah.
When the good times, but when it gets dark and it gets painful and difficult, you got to know you're not alone. Yeah. And that's when that tribe of 5 and that tribe of 500, because I'm going to be grateful for the doctors and the nurses and the wife and everybody who was involved in you finding the capacity to get over the hump.
Well, all of the above. And it was so important. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a lesson right there, Rogers, that, as you deal, maybe you don't go in the hospital, maybe you don't have cancer, maybe you don't have, whatever you're going through. The challenge, whatever it might be in life, the others, your peeps are so important, and you need to cultivate those relationships and covet them and appreciate them verbally. I mean, just make sure people know that you love them and appreciate them because they're doing the same for you. So anyway, so that's the background. We had to stop the podcast, obviously, because I couldn't.
You couldn't talk.
I couldn't even. I mean, it was no go. All right. And that bothered me because we were having so much fun, and it was just so enlightening, and I couldn't wait to get back. So all of that being said, okay, we're going to kind of, I could tell this story, and we could have 4 different episodes on everything that I went through. But what we want to try to do, and how I want to try to do, me personally, as I'm sharing with you, is to just give you maybe 3 nuggets that I brought amongst the many things from that experience. So maybe it can encourage you. Maybe it can give you some perspective that you didn't have before, whether it's with you, whether it's somebody that you know right now that's going through something similar, all right, some pain, or maybe they're bedridden or whatever it might be. All right.
I've got pen. I got paper. Hit me with your best shot.
Give it, man. Okay. So it was 3 things, mainly. Let's go again. Number 1 was things, and this isn't a fearful thing. Please don't go there when I say this. But things are a lot more fragile than you might want to think that they are. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, whether you're really healthy and you're taking care of yourself and you're eating right and you're exercising, and you're doing all the stuff that you need to do for yourself. All right. As a temple, your body is a temple. It's beautiful, and your body is amazing what it can do and shuts down and protects you. And at the same time, there's just that X factor out there that you just don't know. And you'll never know. And it can be very fragile. You can see just how fragile things can get, and they can turn on a dime almost. All right? They come out of nowhere. That you're just like, oh my heavens, we're starting off over here, and now this, and oh my goodness. And I didn't plan it. I didn't, nothing, right? And whether it's somebody's mistake or nobody's mistake or it doesn't matter. Life moves along on a pattern that sometimes it's just more fragile. And I don't say that to give you fear. I say it to have you just be more aware so that you're ready to deal with things in your life as they might come along and manifest as fragility.
So is there an awareness of the delicacy of life, the preciousness of life, of the life that we're living right now that needs to be cultivated? So when the storm hits, you already have an awareness of how fragile we all are.
What exactly. You've done the work so that it's not something totally foreign to you. I like to use this example rather as you bring it up. Let's talk about Jesus. And some people think Jesus had a 33-year playbook that God handed him, right? That he knew everything that was going on, and that he was God, and all this kind of stuff. My perspective on that was he needed to learn how to trust God and the Spirit just like we did, and we do. So in that, there's a trust that comes that if you cultivate it, then you're prepared. That's the kind of stuff right there that
it's your bank account. You've made spiritual bank deposits to your bank account. Right. So then when it takes a left turn, life took a left turn, you are more prepared and you've got something to draw from.
That's right.
If you don't make regular deposits, you're going to get there and it's like, I have nothing to grab to. I have nothing to hold on to or anchor to.
Perfect.
That's what gives you that sense of peace.
Yes.
When you have that level of trust.
Yes, it is a trust thing. Absolutely. I have no idea what's coming around the next corner. But you know what? I'm not trying to figure it out.
Right.
Because I'm confident and I trust that the Spirit is guiding me.
And I'm not afraid of it. Not only, I trust that I've got something within me that's more powerful than anything that comes around that corner.
Right.
That's my faith. I know I've got that place. So,
absolutely.
Not that I'm inviting it.
No.
But I'm ready for it when it comes. I'm living life poised and on my toes.
That's right. Because things are more fragile than you think they are. Okay?
Right,
so here it is. All right? So that was one big thing that kind of came out of this for me. Second thing that came out of me is this thing that has to do with compassion. All right. Now, it's real easy, especially if you're mobile. I mean, if you're bedridden and you can't move out of that hospital bed, that's one thing. But it wasn't like that for me. They encouraged me to walk. They encouraged me to move around a little bit. And so when I would go out and I would walk the floor, right? They didn't want me going off the floor, right? They want Mac walking the whole hospital here. But you can't help it. As you're walking around, these doors, some of them are open to other people's hospital beds, right?
Yeah.
And you just, it's a natural thing, you're kind of looking. And a real natural thing to start to do is to look in there and go, whoa, okay, well, they got it way worse than I do. They're hooked up to way more stuff than I am. There's, look at that poor person kind of deal, right? And what starts to happen when you go down that path is you start to diminish your own suffering, your own pain, your own agony, your own struggle. And you know what I came to realize in all that? I had to stop myself from that because it was two kinds of compassion that started to develop. A compassion for myself. The fact that what I was going through, to recognize it, to live with it, to accept it, to be kind to myself and have compassion in it all and not get down on myself and not get mad and not get pissed at the nurses or the doctors or go to some crazy, wacky place. So I had to develop, and I did begin to develop compassion for myself, right? That it is what it is, and rest with it, sit with it, deal with it, and don't diminish it.
It's got to start there. As the teacher said, love your brother, love your sister as you love yourself. Clearly, he's telling us you got to love yourself. You got to have compassion for yourself, or you have nothing to give.
Right. Well, there it is. That's perfect.
That's a stepping stone for healing, right?
Exactly. That's exactly.
That helped you to heal quicker.
I didn't really realize that. I didn't connect those two dots. At that point, you're already leading me into my third point here, Stu.
It's what we do.
But, yeah, that's right. Of course. And we say that all the time, right? Of course. But you're exactly right. It was also part of that healing process that I just couldn't grasp the significance of it at the time, but it was true, right? And then you have the compassion for that person in that bed that is going through, that might have their family around that bed. And, Rev, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay?
Exactly. I tell people all the time when I visit them in the hospital, let's hold an energy, let's hold prayer and meditation and stillness here, but then see a warm fog going from your hospital bed and going down the halls and going into everybody else's room, because there's enough compassion, there's enough love here for everybody on this floor. And that in itself makes people feel better. So I've always said service.
That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah.
Service is the highest form of prayer. It's the highest form of knowing God. It's the highest form of healing. So get in service. Let your heart be in service to everybody on that floor, including the nurses and the doctors, because they've got healing at some level too. Let me tell you, they get out of that hospital bed a lot faster.
Wow, that's cool. It's like a compassion mist affecting everybody
There's got to
as
be
it
a meme in
floats
there
throughout.
somewhere.
I've often said it looks like The Blob, that old movie, The Blob.
Yeah.
It's probably a little more beautiful than The Blob.
Let's make it more mystical. Let's make it
It's a
little more
warm
mystical.
mist.
How about a compassion shimmer that shimmers throughout the...
Okay. There's going to be a meme coming out of that. That's for sure. So anyway, compassion for others, And Stu, this even kind of manifested itself a little bit in our conversation when it may be part of your story, so I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but,
Was he in the room at the time you had that conversation?
Yeah, I might not have been.
I don't know. Is it in text?
I'm about to find out when he tells me what it is. Let's
Maybe you
see.
got the text.
I'll let you know.
Oh. But remember when you were driving, part of this summer, your journey up to visit your dad.
Yes.
And I'm not going to steal that thunder if that's what you want to talk about later. But it was when you told me that you were going to do that, and the Rev was telling me about his dad. There was just this level that somehow or other, this energy of compassion that didn't used to be there. When somebody would say something like that, that's all I'm saying. It might be, oh man, we'll have a good trip. I hope everything's okay. All that kind of, sort of stuff that he comes up with. But what the reaction that I had was more internal, that there was oh man, I can't imagine. I don't know what he's going through, but I've been there in some regard, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So compassion. So it was a fragile compassion. And then the third one really didn't start to manifest. Stu's already kind of hit on it, and I didn't even realize it. And that has to do, it kind of manifested afterward. Because when you go through such a malady and such an ordeal, and you got stuff poking out of you, and you've had drugs and doctors and everything. I mean, there's just a whole 9 yards, man, for 3 weeks or more, which really more than that because take the treatment. And one thing you want when you come home, okay, all that's behind me. I'm home now. Now it's time for me to start my healing, right? The cancer's gone. Thank God, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's gone. Hallelujah, right? So now you begin to say, well, I lost this weight, I'm feeling weak, and I still got all this stuff in it. Now it's time to start healing. All right. And how do you go about that? What does that mean? What's that look like? Do you start to exercise? You start to eat certain things that are going to promote good health and all that? Yeah. All that can certainly be part of the equation, right? But it was so interesting for me that in one of my daily devotions it had to do with healing. Right? Imagine that. Here we go.
Of course it did.
Of course it did. And here was the thing that as I was reading, it wasn't part of the meditation. It was talking about speaking healing into your body and having a positive energy and all that good stuff, which again, I'm all for, all right? But what shifted for me in that meditation that day was the fact that I'm focused on who right now? Me. I want to be healed. Mm-hmm. And what it started to do is to say, wait. I think you need to look at this a little different here, Mac. Be a healer. Don't worry about your healing. Now it's about me being a healer to others. And it could be in a touch. It could be in a look, countenance, a smile, a hug, some words that you might, it doesn't matter, whatever, all the above. But now all of a sudden, it shifted for me that day. It was really weird that now I started to say to myself, regardless of everything else that I do, whatever label you want to put on me about my job, about my podcast, about whatever, husband, father, at the core, for me now, I'm going to look to be more of a healer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to get my antennas up for that.
Yeah.
I like to say, be the love that you want to experience in your life.
Yeah.
Be the peace you want to experience. Be the healing that you want to experience for the rest of the world. There's only one of us on this planet. And so when you do that, there's an indirect response. As you're holding that truth for somebody else, it is cleansing you from the inside out.
That is the
you are the
beautiful
vehicle
thing.
and the portal and the avenue through which healing, peace, love, and God and everything good and holy happens.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful consciousness. You took it out of the hospital. You're not just knowing love for the guy in the hospital bed. You're knowing it for anybody that crosses your path.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's a really cool thing.
That is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, gang, I don't know. I'm sharing this from a personal standpoint. However it resonates with you, whatever the dots, however they connect, we'd love to hear some stories from your life, from whatever it is you might be going through. If some of this perspective helps you, we'd love to hear about that. And even if we don't, we just know that it's good and that we praise it for being part of what we're all about. Right. So it's awesome. So
Stories themselves are healing. Share your story. Share it with us. We want to hear it. But if you're not comfortable with that, share it with somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody in your family, somebody in your environment, because these stories are necessary to be perpetrating and perpetuating healing on the planet, one story at a time.
I love it. So that's my story, gang. We're going to take some time now. We're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back from that little break, and we're going to tease out a little bit about what was going on with the Rev and Coach Stu during this whole time, too, because their life kept going on, right? And I think they've got some great stories, too. So hang on. We'll be right back with some of that really cool stuff.
Like what you hear so far? Join us in the Rogue Nation by going to our website, www.gorogue.life, where you will find links to our social media and podcast channels, posts on the Seeing Differently blog, and a way to subscribe to all our happenings. We encourage you to become a member of our cafe, where you can interact with us and fellow Roguers and keep the conversation going. Please share us and like us. And now, let's get back to our Wise Guys.
Okay, Mac here, and welcome back to the episode where we're talking about, we're back. And this is exciting for us to kind of move forward now and be sharing with you guys. But we also had life being lived in that time that we were gone. And I've already kind of just gone with what happened with me, maybe some nuggets. What's going on, Stu? I kind of a little bit alluded. Talk to the gang. What's going on with you?
I had a lot happening. I mean, but I don't want to overlook that I was participating in what you had going on.
Yeah.
Right. Try to spend as much time I could with you without me being annoying to you being there. There were times he's like, "All right, time to go out of here." Trying to keep up with the Rev while he was doing his thing out west.
Yeah.
I feel like I traveled the country. I mean, which is pretty much what I did. So I'll just name the things that happened. I feel like in a span of a couple of weeks, I had like a full year. Like my whole year was like in 2 weeks. So.
And I'm sure people can relate to that. Okay.
Right. It all happened at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
And again, I'll comment, you did it with grace.
Thank you.
You were so damn busy.
Yeah.
And you were flying from one place to the next.
It was nuts.
You didn't lose your cool.
Yeah.
Well, it was important for me to keep up with you two. So I was doing that. But then I had my daughter got married.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so that was, a year-long preparation, that ended in an amazing way. Let me just tell you everything that I had, and then I'll go back.
That was a big ugh for us, by the way.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I couldn't make it.
Mac and Natalie couldn't make it because he was all plugged and wired, and he was. Yeah.
We were so
they were
disappointed, man.
Yeah,
So,
and
anyway,
we were sad you couldn't be there too, but of course we understood.
Yeah.
So that happened literally. That was on a Sunday. The next day, Monday, I flew to Las Vegas to compete in the USPA, which is United States Powerlifting Association, national competition. I was there. And so I competed on that Wednesday.
Oh, by the way, I'm just leaving I'm leaving goodbye, honey.
Yeah. So literally the next day I drive back from Tennessee because the marriage was in Tennessee. We live in Georgia, right? I come back, pack my stuff, boom, on a plane. I'm in Las Vegas, and it's like the whole week, powerlifting, right? I come back. I'll tell you about it in a second.
Oh, okay.
I come back, and bam, my father, who's living in a home, he has dementia and everything, falls, ends up in the hospital, breaks 3 ribs, and I'm like, I got to go to Ohio, So then I'm literally, I got back from Las Vegas, hopped in the car, drove to Ohio, and spent a little over a week there, just in the hospital.
Loving it.
So before this all started, I was in the hospital with Mac, and then at the end of it, I was in the hospital with my dad. So there's that's the sandwich right there.
I'm really grateful on your trip to the West Coast. You didn't end up in the hospital also.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right. So my daughter's wedding, it was I've been to a lot of weddings in my life. My just a little side story, my dad was in a polka band his whole life from 16 on. He made 24 polka albums, always played weddings. My mom and I would literally crash weddings to go watch my dad play and dance. So I went dance to polka, right? So when I say I've been to a lot of weddings, I've been to a lot of weddings, right? My daughter's, and there's no bias here at all, was my ultimate favorite. It was the best experience, and everybody is saying this that was there. And the best way I can describe it, there were so many amazing things that happened there, but the best way I could describe it is everybody that was there, it looked like they all had known each other forever.
Yeah.
Like they all were family, they all were friends, and there were people that had never met that were there, from various sides of the family, friends, et cetera. But everybody was just interacting with one another. It was such a great, loving, amazing environment that was fun. They wanted it to be fun. So the ceremony was fun, and just the whole experience was just incredible. And we were there about 4 days, rehearsal dinners, the ceremony, the wedding. It ended in spectacular fireworks outside that were like full blown, like real fireworks, like you'd see like on a July 4th. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Shut up! You're making me feel even worse here.
I'm gonna have to up my wedding game now.
Oh man!
I
wasn't there.
I wish I could have reenacted I gave 2 speeches.
Yeah.
One was at the rehearsal dinner, which I know I'm not supposed to speak at, but I had written a toast in the style of Dr. Seuss. And so I went up there and I'm like, I have to read this toast I wrote in the style of Dr. Seuss. I said, I know I'm not supposed to talk. It's a rehearsal dinner, but I did. And then you're
the father of the bride. You're paying for this wedding.
I'm like,
you get to do whatever you want.
That's true.
So then at the reception, I was the last one to go, and it was so fun. Cool. I mean, it was
Did you
amazing.
cry? Did you lose it?
So all right. So my I made other people cry. That was part. That was in my
job.
and I made them laugh. And I instilled some wisdom. I kind of hit all the points. It was amazing.
Still my hero.
It was fun. So I did that. Came back, and then off to nationals. I had goals, powerlifting. So I'm a power lifter. Everyone knows I'm a wrestler and I'm a wrestling coach. But
those of you watching us on video, you can tell which one of us is the power lifter.
It isn't me. I know that might surprise you, but it's not me. Okay.
So this is my second year competing at nationals, and I had goals, and I met all of my goals. And I only say that because any competitor, like the Olympics are going on right now, right? Any competitor has goals, and if you can meet all of your goals, that's an amazing performance, right? So I am so proud and happy that I was able to do that. So I ended up setting one world record, which in bench, which is funny. What's funny about it is the world record that was set before that was my world record. So I broke my own world record, which is great to do.
Yeah.
And then I set 5 more Georgia state records. And so, my totals, like now combining all of my events, I've only been doing this 2.5 years, is I have, 2 world records I've set. I've set a national record, which somebody just recently beat. So I'm going after him. And then I have like 32 Georgia State records, so I only say all that because everything that we talk about, like on this podcast, it contributes to me being able to be in the right mental space.
Yeah.
To have this
so
success.
Cool. That's so cool.
Because there's things that come up, that could throw you off. And if you're not, it's kind of like if your cup doesn't spill out with the right stuff, what's inside of you, things aren't going to go well.
Yeah.
So, and I literally had just come off an amazing experience with my daughter, but I was still thinking about, my buddies here, Mac and the Rev. And so I was kind of, dedicating, you don't know this, but I was dedicating that competition not only to my daughter and her new husband, but also to Mac and his healing, and to the Rev and what he was doing, out west. And it just, so I was thinking about you guys while I was, getting ready, getting mentally set to go do my lifts. So I was, metaphorically lifting you guys up in my lifts, which was really cool for me. So I ended up
again. You lift somebody else up, and in doing so, you were lifted up.
That was just it's just a bonus that happened. It was amazing. I ended up taking first in 3 different categories, which is just like and there were actually people competing against me. It wasn't like I was the only one in the category, because that's happened before.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Not everybody that's 58 years old wants to, power lift. So, sometimes I'm by myself, but there were people there. So, and then when I came back, just going to see my dad, we could do a whole episode on that whole experience. But it's just, I guess I'll share this one thing with having the right kind of countenance in your life, where you build yourself into a person that you are, and it spills out no matter what's going on. So my dad has dementia, right? And there's just things he just doesn't remember and such. But when he got put into the hospital, the nurses put him next to the nurses station because he can't walk on his own and he just needs a lot of attention. And they instantly labeled him the troublemaker. This is totally my dad, right? So they were laughing constantly, because my dad is just that guy. Even when he doesn't know what's going on, he doesn't know who he is and everything, he's still that guy. So he was wearing this shirt. Wait till you hear this. And I don't even know why he had this shirt on, but the shirt said, "Most likely to party with the elves." So I was like, how does he have a Christmas shirt on in the middle of July? But, you just have to, Mac, you were talking about, compassion, of course, that's going on. But I'll tell you, the 3 things that I got from all of this. Number 1 is staying connected. Even though I had all this going on, I was staying connected with everybody I possibly could. You guys, especially, in any way I can. I think that's important. Your tribe of 5, you keep them close, you keep them connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Staying present in every moment. I had so much going on, it would be really easy for my mind to go in other places. And when I got to tell you, when I brought my daughter out of the building we were in to walk her down the aisle, it's the one thing I said to her. I said, "Listen," I said, "look at me." I said, "Are you here?" She's like, "I'm here, Dad." I'm like, "Are you present?" Like, pay attention to every step, to every moment. And when we got to the end of to walk down towards her to-be husband, she stopped me. And she just looked around and looked at everybody. And I was like, oh, man, that's being present. She's just soaking it all in, feeling it. And that's so important, because you always have things going on. But if you're not there, you're missing it.
Yeah. I agree.
And then the last thing is just gratitude. Like, everything that was going on, I just was so gracious. Every lift I did, I'm like, oh, man, thanks. Getting me through that. I'm like, Max healing, thank you. My daughter's wedding was amazing, thank you. It, just everything. The Rev, he's keeping up with us on things he has going on. He's going to talk about it. That's why I keep not saying any more than he's going to talk about. My story's
not nearly as exciting as yours.
But I think if we just are always living in gratitude, like I literally every day I open my eyes, first thing I say is just thank you.
Yeah,
and sometimes there's other words in there. Sometimes it's just thank you. Sometimes it's like, hey, God, thank you you know why I'm grateful. Those are days I'm really tired.
Number
It's like, I don't
47.
but that's before my foot hits the ground out of the bed. I mean, I do that every day, and I just think that's important.
That's
so
awesome.
that's
I
what's
love
been
those
going on for
stories,
me,
man.
and that's kind of what I'm not going to say what I got out of it. I'm just reminded of these things because I feel like we all do. We stay connected, we stay present. I feel like we all have gratitude, the three of us. I feel like that's part of why we do this podcast is
Sure.
help other people experience these things. So,
Absolutely. Love those stories.
so there you go.
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
common theme here between
Golly.
both your stories is there's an intention. There's an intention to live that which we're talking about.
Yeah.
You bring gratitude to the table. Your daughter brought love. Her and her betrothed brought love to that environment. And so everybody was infected by the love. But there was an intention behind it. This has got to be fun. It's got to be full of love. It's got to be joyful.
Mhm.
They lived their intention. You
They
went
did.
away to go lift weights. Okay, you had an intention to remain focused and centered and grateful and appreciative. And that's why you've got a world record.
Yeah.
And then you brought that same experience to your dad. Each one of you brought something to the table, to the experience, whether it be triumphant or dark and scary or just my story, what I call rubber meets the road spirituality.
Yeah.
Can every moment be Christmas? Yes, in July. It absolutely can. It can be
Why
full
not?
of bliss and joy. And I was, nothing too exciting. I was kind of what I call rubber meets the road spirituality. I'm dealing with aging parents and sisters that told me, get your butt out here and carry your weight. And I got to channel, I thought about what I wanted to share today.
Yeah.
When we talk about mystics and mavericks and mentors and all those things, I got to be all of those people in the environment, a very foreign environment to me. But I can crawl back into my little 10-year-old self and be back in that environment and see things from a different vantage point.
Wow.
And I had to bring a mystic. I would have been really suffering in that environment had I not brought a mystical mindset to say, okay, what's going on beneath the surface?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
happening underneath this ridiculous behavior of my father who's turned into a grumpy old man? And how can I bring joy? I had intention to bring joy. My mom was very receptive, and she's doing really well. But I had to look beneath the bickering and the arguments and the pain that my parents are going through and say, what would the mystic do here? And it was bring more love,
Yeah.
bring more joy. I was a misfit. I am a misfit in my family. I'm the minister, and I got a bunch of atheists in my household. Yet when I go home, and so how do I bring God into the environment here without talking about God? And that's bringing those attributes.
bringing
It's
you.
you.
It's
You
my
bring
intention.
yourself,
Bringing
right?
you.
Yeah.
I'm bringing myself.
Did you just say the same thing?
It doesn't work too though when I open the door to go home and say, God has come home. It's more like the prodigal son.
Oh, that's
Is
funny.
that what you did?
Yeah, it does not work really well
Okay.
because my father's basically God in that household. But I was a bit of a misfit. I don't fit into the pattern and the habits of my family environment. And this includes my sisters, my cousins. They were all there.
Yeah.
So how do I contribute to an environment, play in the environment, but still be a conduit for something better, for something
Wow.
greater? And that means I had
Yeah.
to be a mentor. So I'd sprinkle things. I'd sprinkle things into conversations. I'd sprinkle things and then walk out of the room and see what happens. I'd planted
the
seeds in the
sparks.
consciousness of my father. I pumped everybody. I was there to pump them up.
I
was
love it.
Powerlifting in a
I love
different
that
way.
analogy. Yeah.
And the reality is, you sprinkle those seeds and you detach from it and you go, let it sit. Let it sit
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
I had enough time when you get to see the germination of the seed. I was there for a month. I was
Yeah.
away from work for a month, and my sole job was to make a difference in the life of my family as a mystic, as a mentor, a teacher, as a misfit.
And a maverick. I mean,
Well,
you had to have some
you got-
mavericky thoughts. man.
Absolutely.
Without a
I had to
doubt.
push the envelope of
Yeah.
what they've always believed, what they always thought, but do it in a loving, gentle way. And I made a difference. And I came home feeling really good, actually proud of myself that I was able to play all those roles
So
without
cool.
causing a fight, without causing an argument. It took gentleness and patience and a lot of focus, but
That's
it was
amazing.
a really
Amen,
good
man.
time.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I love it.
Mac, he was being a maverick when he walked in the room, dumped all the pixie dust, and then ran out. He's like, let's see what happens here.
Yeah. boom, 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 boom. Yeah, the fireworks.
You know what's great, Rev, about what you're saying
So
is
cool.
like you were just being who you needed to be for them.
Yep.
But then when you walked out of the room, guess what happened, right? God went to work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He was going to work through you anyway, but I mean, he's just going to work, doing his thing, like just,
right.
And you know what? Here's what I know. God goes to work on people, whether they believe in him or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think he's a respecter of persons in that way.
I mean,
no.
He, she, it is not. It's going to move. It's going to work, and you're either doing it or not. You plant a seed, get away, and then something more
That's
miraculous
amazing.
is going to happen because it's not limited by you.
Yeah.
It's far greater.
That's awesome.
Agreed. What great stories. Oh, my
Wow,
gosh.
thank
I'm
you
I'm sitting
for-
here sort of just tingling. I don't know. I'm just between you two guys. I'm just like, oh, wow. So we hope there was some benefit there, Rogers. I mean, we just wanted to share our hearts with this first episode back. This is some of our experience. Hopefully you can take away, some nuggets. We always pray that you're going to take away a few nuggets that, that we've learned from each other, as always we do. And hopefully you can pick up a little bit from us, and maybe it helps. So thanks. Thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for sticking with us. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. We're really excited about some of the episodes that are going to be coming up. We're going to talk about an episode we've entitled From Jesus' Lips. And this is an episode about some of the stuff that's going on out there on social media that people tend to, we think, maybe misconstrue some of the stuff maybe that Jesus was talking about.
What? Everything on social media is not true?
Yeah. Oh, there's a great one. No, probably not. Okay. We've got Project 2025 on the list. It's just sort of we're not going to go through whether we agree with the points that they're making or not. We want to talk more about what you do when you see stuff like this. We think perspective on how people tend to share their thoughts, whether it's a group or whether it's an individual. So there'll be some. I think that's going to be a great conversation, a little social. Another one's called Lead into Gold, and that's alchemy, is what that is. And we tend to want to. We're not going to teach you how to turn lead into gold. Okay?
Oh, come on!
I know we don't know how to do that, but there's certainly alchemy that goes on, transformation, right? And how does that take place? And some tips on that. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. Greater minds than these, Jesus. Greater things than these, really, that Jesus said that we would do. So what does that really mean? What how can we do that? What does that look like? And we're going to talk a lot about intention when it comes to that one. And then another one where I'm just going to give you just a few. The next ones that are on the list: divine estrogen.
Oh, you're in my
like it.
field now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to really kind of bring in this concept of the divine feminine, and what does that what does that mean? And we don't want everybody to get woo-woo on us, and we don't want everybody running for the hills, but I think you're really going to enjoy that one, especially if that's not a topic that you tend to press into very
Every
much.
topic is designed to make your life better. That's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
If one person, maybe 1,000 people, and their life is a little better, man, then
Right.
we feel like we've lived our purpose on this podcast. So you get a nugget from any one of these episodes. Take it, run with it, share it, tell people around it. It's 10 nuggets our way, so we can. If you got a topic, we want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Send it our way.
Exactly. So thanks so much again. Right? We've enjoyed
Oh, yeah.
it.
This has been
stuff,
great.
guys.
Love
I'm
you
so
guys.
glad
and
to
I
be
love your
back.
stories.
Yeah.
So
love the
glad to be
stories.
back.
Love you guys, absolutely. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Wow, you made it and can now unbuckle. Thanks for listening to The Guys Are Back, where the guys peeled back the curtain on some life experiences that caused a pause in their recording and were blessed with new perspectives that can be applied to our lives. Remember to visit the website at www.gorogue.life for lots of follow-up information. See the show notes for any links to episode content, and join us in the ongoing cafe conversation where we post some thought-provoking ideas and challenges for your roguish conversations. Oh, and of course, tell everyone you know about us and like, follow, and engage. Be sure to tune in next week when Mac unleashes another unthinkable conversation. That is, if you dare.